Hey guys, welcome back to Anime Sekai Podcast. I'm your host, Ichigo, and I'm joined by the lovely.
Mikan here. Hi, everyone.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode
Oh,
10.
wow, we're already 10 episodes in.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We hope you are enjoying the content.
We're having a blast doing this, so I hope you guys are enjoying it.
Yes. This week, we are going to be discussing villains. We're going to take a deeper dive. If you all have been listening to us for a little while, we did our villains episode a few weeks back. So if you haven't had a chance, head on over to whatever platform you're listening to this on.
And go listen.
Yes, go listen and check out that episode. This week, we are going to be discussing villains who actually make valid points.
Yeah, or we just personally agree with.
Yeah. So sit back, relax, get you a snack, and come hang out with us. In our last villains episode, we talked about a few villains who we were trying to decide if they were actually villains or are they victims of circumstance.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah, there are quite a few villains who may not be villains by choice, but they were definitely forced down that route. And the number one that we both agreed on was Scar from Full Metal Alchemist.
Yep.
So, for those who have not seen Full Metal Alchemist, Scar is one of the first villains to appear. He is the last of his people. His whole family village was pretty much slaughtered. They were taken out, and he is now on a revenge track.
To get his revenge on state alchemists specifically.
Right. And finding the ones who basically took
we're part of
his
the massacre.
people and his family. Yeah.
And it's understandable.
I get why he wants to go out for revenge. I get that.
Yeah.
I don't think he went about it the right way, and that's how he ended up meeting Edward Elric. So Scar has a certain power that he uses to go around and take anybody out that tries to stand between him and his revenge. And thus ends up meeting main characters Edward and Alphonse Elric.
Yeah, and they kind of meet in like the worst situation as well.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I like about Scar, though, is that although I don't, of course, I think most people don't agree with his ways, but he also understands that. He technically is fully aware that what he's doing is not really right, but he also just wants people to face consequences for their actions and suffer.
I see that, and I think the fastest way for him to do that is he realized the power that I don't want to say was given, but I'll say that
I mean, his brother basically
upon
gave him that arm.
Yeah, that power was forced upon him, and thus he decided, well, I'm just going to go after any and everybody that is not only opposing me, but the people that took away my whole family, you know.
And he doesn't really kill innocent people, but the problem is anybody who gets in his way, he's like, I'll take you down as well. I believe there was a scene where Winry confronted him, I think with a gun. And he was basically like, listen, you got one shot. And if you don't get me, I'm going to kill you. He also took out, precious little Nina, which granted, he kind of relieved her of her suffering and that was his purpose, but still messed up.
I think in the original, I keep saying original, the first anime that came out, he sits down and he tries to talk to Nina. And he sympathizes. I don't want to say he sympathizes with her, but he sympathizes with her.
Yeah.
Like that scene is forever etched into my head where he was mortified at what happened to her, really tried to talk to her, and then was like, you know what? The only way you can be at peace is if you stop suffering. And so I'm going to relieve you of your suffering. Which humanized him. And it was at that moment that I was like, this man is not a villain. Yes, he is a villain because he's in a rampage, but that's because the state alchemist kind of came in and took away his whole
Yeah.
family, his village, everything that he grew up
And I mean, he
in.
watched it all be destroyed as well in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, like in war, like I understand. I mean, this war itself was generated by bad people, you know, purposely. A lot
Right.
of the state alchemists didn't want to fight in this war, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, unfortunately in war, you have to do what you have to do, you know, and the fighting just started and there was nothing you could take back.
Mm-hmm.
It was game over by the evil people intentionally doing this. So once it started, you
Right.
couldn't, it was like a domino effect. You can't really stop.
Right. And I think that's what the state alchemists who came across him and were basically pleading for their lives, like, don't take me out, because we had no choice.
Yeah.
Like, we were forced to do what we had to do. There's nothing that we could do to stop it. That's the sad
Yeah.
part. Now, mind you, closer to the end of Scar's reign of terror, when they gave his backstory,
Yeah.
and they explained why he is doing what he is doing, it made me feel like, okay, now I understand. But if I was ever in Scar's position, would I do the same thing? And the answer to that is probably not. I'm not just going to go around and take anybody out.
Yeah.
But I understand his revenge tactic.
Yeah.
I get it, but I don't agree with it. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you were in Scar's position.
Yeah. Would I take everyone out?
Yeah, are you taking everybody out, or are you just going to have to find a different way of...
I don't think I would. I don't think I would in this scenario because I have a view of like all's fair in love and war kind of thing, which I understand from the other side.
Right.
The other side's always going to be fighting for their country and nation as well and their people, you know. Granted, this was kind of a massacre, basically. It wasn't really a war. But I don't think I would go out and get revenge in this way.
As we are talking about this, I'm starting to wonder if somehow he would have infiltrated the state alchemist, made his way in to like join, worked his way. That would have taken too long, but worked his way
and then
up.
became one. I mean, basically in the end, he kind of, you know, fights on their side, if that makes sense, to fight the actual evil that really started all of this mess.
The homunculus. Yeah. It was the homunculus.
They're
the real villains,
they're
because
plotting everything. And father, whatever.
Well, and in either the first anime or Brotherhood, that's when you find out that it was actually Envy who had disguised
and took that
themselves as a state alchemist and took the first shot, and thus war broke out.
Yes.
Ooh, Envy.
Always making messes everywhere.
I have no sympathy for Envy, sorry.
That leads me into the moral thing of I wouldn't go for revenge, right? But that leads me into Attack on Titan. There's like the two people that I want to talk about, villains or anti-heroes or heroes, depending on who you ask for moral. So there's Zeke and then there's Eren. And I know you don't watch Attack on Titan. It's not your thing. I have tried to get her to, but I don't think it's for her.
I've watched a few episodes. It's
not
just
for
not.
You. Yeah.
It didn't drag
it's a little,
me in. But I know who you're talking about.
It's a little too much. But really quick background is basically there's main person, the original Titan, if you will, had powers to turn into a Titan and fought for her empire. Eldia, basically there's another group of people called Marley and they took over these people. And what happened in the end, she had kids way down the line, years. So now Eldians, a bunch of them went into this island and the king boarded themselves up and made a wall and then took the memory of the outside world. So these people in the wall, they have no idea that there's an outside world that's existing. In real time, there is a whole world outside and the people of Marley, they're still alive. And there's still Eldians living with these people in Marley and they're persecuted for their past. Obviously, people hate them because of their ancestors. So what happens is Zeke, who lived with Marley and is basically Eren's brother, he hates, I don't know if he hates Eldians, but he hates what they did. And so what he wants to do is basically kind of a slow death, if it makes sense. Instead of seeking revenge, he kind of wants to make peace, like a peaceful way to go out. And that means he wants to sterilize all of the Eldians so they never have children. And basically with him and that generation will be the last to survive. These Eldians are the only ones with the blood to become Titans. So once they're gone, the reason for, I guess, the world hating on them would be gone, right? But Eren, on the other hand, he wants to commit mass genocide. And I'm only talking about the anime, not regarding the manga, because the manga has finished. And so people ask, like, what would you choose? Like, my question is, what would you choose? Would you basically kill the entire world for the people that you love? Or would you just sterilize everyone so it ends with your generation? Nobody can have kids.
Honestly, and I might be contradicting myself from the villains episode because I remember we discussed this in our other villains episode, but I probably would have taken everybody out just because everybody hates them, right? So if everybody hates them, even if they are sterilized, they can't turn into Titans anymore and they can't have children, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're automatically safe. You know, there's going to be some people who are like, I don't really know.
I think they know that. I feel more so it's like, oh, to pay for their sins or their ancestors' sins, you know, just and go out in peace, which is what I mean, I get it. He kind of also has some trauma from his dad,
Yeah.
so makes sense.
Ooh.
He's like, no more kids for everyone.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Yeah,
I
of
get
course.
both sides. But it's a matter of even if everybody can no longer turn into the Titans, nobody can have any more kids, and that bloodline just kind of dies out with them, nobody's going to 100% believe that
the threat is gone. Yeah.
Everybody's
Until they're all fully
like there's
gone.
always still going to be right. And I think that's why Eren was like, we're not going to be safe no matter what option we pick, because even if we can all still live, there's going to be that risk that somebody's going to come take us out. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, this is not a win-win situation.
In my personal opinion, it's kind of a choice of, do you save the world or do you save the few people that you love, kind of thing. In this case, like, I know I said for Scar, I wouldn't go out and seek revenge. But in this case, I feel like I would agree with you and I would just take out the world. Just be done with it. So that,
I mean, because it's either I take everybody out or we all have to live in fear for the rest of our lives. If they're living in fear for so long, they're already secluded on an island. They're not allowed to leave the island. The island has been basically barriered up. You get tired of that. Even if they take I'll call it an antidote, quote unquote. Even if they take the quote unquote antidote, they can't leave the island. They got to stay on the island. And if they did leave the island and people found out who they really were, chaos would ensue.
Yeah, I mean, people already knew who they were on that island and they just hated them. I mean, they kept attacking them with Titans, which is the saddest, most ironic thing ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree.
That was messed up. Either way, it's not a win-win situation. You know, there's so many villains that they don't have a way out. They are hurting so much that all they see is red for revenge, or they make decisions like Eren that can be detrimental to basically everybody and everything. Like, these villains are making almost impulse decisions, at least the ones that we are going to be discussing today. Personally, I'm not gonna take revenge. However, if it comes to my family, I'll figure out a way to get my revenge. It's not gonna be in anything like any of these villains are doing. Like, if I had the power Scar did, I'm not gonna go around taking innocent people out. I don't know.
It's hard because it questions, like, it's a question of morals and your value of, like, what do you value more, kind of.
Right.
Going off that whole would you do it for world peace situation, I feel like there is a lot of characters like that, which, for instance, like in Naruto, a lot of the villains, their whole thing is, in a way, peace in
Peace.
just a messed up world. Like, I mean, Madara Uchiha wanted to get the power of infinite Tsukiyomi, I think, like the dream world, so that people can live without problems. Similar with, like, Pain.
Pain wanted to create a world where, what was it? There was no more
Like,
fighting
a lot of
or
the
something like
Naruto,
that,
like,
or no more
villains, their main goal is kind of that, you know, the same goal everyone else is fighting for. It's just what differentiates them, I feel like, is basically how they go about it.
Right. Except for Orochimaru. he the only exception.
That man do not care. He don't really care.
Creepy snake man.
He don't care.
No, he don't. Oh my gosh, he's so creepy. Anyway, now I find that with a lot of Naruto characters as well. They basically are villains because they want immediate change. They want the change to be like, we're going about this the wrong way. No, we're just gonna force everybody
basically
into peace. Which makes me think of Dr. Stone. Tsukasa, in the very first season, when they all start to awaken, Kasa's main goal is to only awaken children and kids their age, because he wants to ensure that no adults come to ruin,
destroy the world again,
their new world. Yeah, destroy their world. And I get that, because his point of, well, when the adults are running, we have wars, we have famine, we have people who are getting hurt, we have broken households. And when he mentioned that, I was like, you are making some valid points. But would I do the same
I mean,
thing?
because he literally goes
Probably
around
not.
just breaking these stones of like adults.
Mhm.
I don't know. For me, it's hard because like kids can go ahead and destroy the world anyway, you know?
Well, I think it's more of, you've got adults who, now mind you, I've seen season 1 and part of season 2. I've not caught up to season 3 just yet. I'm so far behind. But my understanding so far of what I have seen in the anime is that Tsukasa did not really come from a very positive adult background.
I mean, he was kind
like,
of a
he
normal
has some
kid.
sort of,
I don't know, but
that man is
what
hurting.
I never understood is he kind of
Yeah.
came from like a normal. I don't know if it's called normal, but he was always strong. He just hating, in my opinion.
There's got to be a reason he's got that much hate in his heart for
His big thing is nature, is what he's like,
adults.
oh, we should live in the natural world, if that makes sense.
Right, but taking out the adults is the best way to
I
live
mean,
in the
also
natural
even
world. That
Senku, he's
ain't.
fighting Senku because he's more of into science and bringing back civilization, and that's why they're sort of arch enemies, if that makes sense, because he wants to live in back in the daytimes, a world without science, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, but he also mentioned that he wants kids to run the
I think that's why, though, because adults have that knowledge
world, I
of
guess, the
bringing
new
back
world.
civilization, and kids are more pure without technology. And second start, I guess, basically. Well, it's too late for adults, in his view, in his mind. He's like, they can't change.
I don't agree with that. And the reason I don't agree with that is because they gonna get
Yeah,
older,
exactly.
which means they're gonna become adults. So
Yeah.
when y'all become
I think,
adults, then what
I think
happens?
I don't know, in my personal opinion, he just doesn't want like this advanced civilization.
Now, I will say, if I was in that show at the age that I am at right now, I'm pretty sure Tsukasa
Oh
is
yeah,
gonna
no,
take
we
me
too
out.
old. It's too late for us.
We're too old in his mind.
We're going out. But my thing is, how can you tell from a statue? You know what I mean? Like, what if they look young?
That's my thing. He was just going
Yeah.
around knocking statues
Yeah,
down
I
like,
don't
yeah,
like
this
how they
person
look.
looks
Let me
old
just take
enough.
them out.
Let me just go ahead and take them out. Mind you, that person could be like,
Oh yeah,
17, 18 years old, and you just assumed that they were a 30-something-year-old or
basically.
40-something-year-old. How
It's
messed up
just a personal
is that?
agenda, you know? Which which takes me to another sort of villain style is psychopaths, because we're talking about like deciding for other people. And for those of you who don't know, psychopaths is what might happen, for instance, if AIs take over. It's another good one about like morals and ethics. Basically, it's like a dystopian future, and there's this system, this sort of AI slash bunch of brains put together civil system that I think governs Japan. From the moment you're sort of born, it decides whether you have potential to become a criminal or not, whether you have committed a crime or not. So people are placed in jobs that they would fit perfectly from basically when they're really young. So your life is already decided for you from pretty much the moment you're born. And so people who haven't even committed crimes they're kind of like put
In
on
jail?
a criminal tag. And so you have to be watched.
What?
So even if you didn't commit a crime, if you might have that tendency, you are already placed as sort of a criminal.
First of all, that sounds like the video game Detroit.
I mean, I feel like that's a very common concept,
I
like
love that.
AI will choose how society sort of dictate. It'll decide before you've even done anything. But the problem is, the thing that people argue is it works though. There's not a lot of crime. For the most part, it's peaceful in this state, which is sad. Because you already know who's going to be a criminal, basically.
So then they already take the criminals and put them
Yeah,
off,
before they can
like in a corner
possibly
somewhere.
commit a crime. But the sad part is, once people witness, like there's a scene in I think one of the beginning episodes, there's a scene where a woman, she witnesses a guy die and her meter goes up because of her trauma. So now she's considered, because they have these guns that can
Oh.
only shoot people who have that capability. And so now it's showing that she has now potential to become one based on her trauma. I was like, dang, that's messed up.
Because she
Yeah,
saw
her
somebody
chances of becoming like, I don't know if
get
it's kind of categorized
killed?
as like going off the rails, you know what I mean? Like mentally, because of that, she can, I guess her level just went up. And I was like, that's really messed up.
So then if that's the
It's
case, who's
yeah,
the
so they
villain in
kind
the story? Is
there's
it the
I would say 2
AI?
villains. The Sybil system is one, and that's because it decides
Mhm.
for you.
Okay.
And then there's also Makishima Shogo, which he's kind of out to get the system and take it out because it taps the mental state of people and he doesn't like it. He thinks people are innately evil. And he thinks that's a good thing, though. And that's why he wants people to decide for themselves to do whatever they want, you know? And I mean, we're kind of supposed to see him as a villain. But the thing is, as you see, like all the victims of the civil system, you kind of you kind of root for him a bit, you know what I mean? Although he's crazy and he's manipulative, but you're like,
Yeah.
this system is really horrible. Granted, it works apparently, but still.
I mean, but I wouldn't want my
Yeah,
fate predetermined shortly after birth.
God forbid something happens, you're like, oh no, you're not in a
So
good state. Then you're kind of like on the borderline.
so then if that's the case, the people that are deemed a criminal, can
If
they
they can
go
get
back
back
to
like a higher
civilization?
score or
If
like a mental score, technically, yeah. Yeah, it
this
basically
is all
keeps
based on
tab
mental?
of
Oh
your
no. Oh
mental
Lord. Oh
state.
no.
So, and it uses that mental state to keep
Nope.
track of the likelihood that they might become a criminal. So let's say somebody like really does something bad to you
Nope.
and I guess you're really upset, you know, and it just keeps you keep harboring that, then your mental state is probably going to be up and they're going to keep tabs on you.
None of these anime
Yeah.
villains are gonna be able to live in that
Actually,
universe.
some people, yeah.
But that universe would be peaceful because all the villains would be
Yeah,
off in the
but
corner somewhere. You
technically,
don't have to
I
worry
believe
about them.
Shogo, the system doesn't recognize him as a villain.
What?
I believe he's one of the few people who
What?
gets by without being recognized by the system. Like the system doesn't deem him as evil. His intentions might not be malicious in his own mind. I don't know. Although he's really messed up.
So then is his mentality one that he has full control over to where he's like, look, because at some point in time, he had to have recognized that this system is messed up. And because he's recognizing that the system is messed up, he's trying to beat the system. The system already doesn't recognize that there's a problem with him. So somehow he has enough mental strength
Yeah.
to where he's
I
tricking
don't
the
like he's kind
system.
of like a mystery in this series, but he just hates that this civil system basically makes everyone like sheep, you know? You have to follow the rules and he hates that. And I guess the question comes down to would you want to live in a world where technically it's super peaceful, it's a utopia, but you're not really free versus a place where you do have the freedom to choose whatever you want to do, but it's really messed up. Like the real world, you know?
That is a hard question because I feel like
Mhm.
you would be anxious all of the time
Yep.
if you're living in that type of universe because the moment you deem something,
Yeah, like if your mental state gets too bad, you know, and you have to always be conscious of that.
yeah, if your mental state gets too bad, you're at risk at that point.
Just watch it though. Just try it. Just try it. Give it a try.
Yeah, no. I will give it a try. I'll think about it. But I don't know. It makes me wonder like, he has so much
Yeah.
freedom to kind of choose whether he wants to be a villain or not. And then there are other villains like Kagura
Mhm. Yeah. Who
from
have no choice.
Inuyasha. She
I know
has
what
no
you mean. Yeah.
choice. And I feel bad for her because, yes, she is a villain,
Mhm.
but she is forced to be a villain. So I will definitely say that she's our victim. Her main goal in Inuyasha is to pull herself away from Naraku. She wants to be freed from him, which means he is
Mhm.
basically forcing her to do these things. And there are several episodes where he tells her, I
Yeah.
can see what you see. I know when you're going to betray me. He has her life force in his hands. Like he can just easily take her out at any point in time. And she is doing her best to get away from him. But there are also some of those scenes where while she's trying to get away from him, Which I think the anime is messed up for this. There are several episodes where she is doing her best to try to really cut off ties, cut herself away from Naraku. And then Inuyasha and his crew come and they're like, "Oh, Kagura, Naraku must have sent
Oh,
you.
wait a
Now we
minute.
must fight." And she's like, "Wait, I was trying to get away from him."
That's funny. Yeah, no, she's definitely a victim of circumstance. Granted, I don't know if she's like, she might be a little evil to her core a bit.
But that makes me wonder,
Yeah.
is she evil because she has to be to put on a face? Or is she evil
I mean, yeah,
without
that's
Naraku's
it's
help?
because she's basically doing anything to get freedom, even until the end, basically.
The fact that she even went to Sesshomaru
She was desperate. What
as
could
if
she
he was
do?
going to help her. How desperate do you have to be to go to Sesshomaru to be like, "Look, if you
And
help
she really
me,
believed this man was gonna
I
help.
will help you." And she did. Sesshomaru was like, "Bro, I'm not studying you. I'm not studying Naraku.
Yeah.
I just want that sword from Inuyasha." And when she posed I can help you get the sword, then he was like, "Okay, I'm listening."
Listen, a guy's got to do what a guy's got to do, and a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
I don't think she's a real villain. Like, yes, she is a villain, but Naraku is basically using her as his
Yeah, no,
puppet.
I
I
feel like
feel
there's a
so
lot
bad
of
for
villains
her.
like that who are just kind of victims of circumstance. The things they're doing for freedom. Like, let me be at peace.
She's doing the best she can. And Kanna is a snitch. She's carrying that mirror around,
I see what
sneaking
you're
up on
doing.
Kagura like, "I see you."
It's like, you better
It's
mind
like,
your
girl,
business.
if you don't leave her alone, she's trying to help both of y'all out. At one point, Kagura was really trying to help Kanna and herself
Yeah.
escape from the clutches of Naraku.
Listen, some people don't know what's good for them, okay? They just mess everything up.
And I hate to say this, I like Kanna. I do.
Oh yeah? Why?
I don't consider her a
She's
villain.
just there.
Or
She
a
literally
victim.
is
I
just
just think
there.
she's there.
She is cute. No, I
She's just
agree.
there. She's cute. She's just real quiet and she doesn't like she fights back, but she fights back
Like,
using that
she's almost like she
mirror.
has no evil, like, intentions per se. She's just doing what she's told.
Well, I think Kagura is the same way. She doesn't have any evil
Yeah, but I feel like
intentions.
she
She's
has
just
more like
following
her
what
like a
Naraku is
personality, you know?
telling her.
Like, she has something she wants.
She's got a couple of evil tendencies, but not necessarily towards anybody unless it has something to do with her trying to get her freedom.
Yeah.
Because when she turned on Naraku, now that last time she turned on Naraku, he was like, "You got one more time."
My patience is running thin.
No, his patience was gone at that point. He was like, "Look, if you turn on me, that is the end of you." He
But I feel like
should have
she
just
was
let her
basically
go.
free at the end, and that's she'd rather choose, well, spoiler, but she'd rather choose death over being.
Inuyasha's been out for so long. I don't think that's a
You never
spoiler.
know.
Plus, they're all connected. So even if there were several episodes where Naraku told her, like, if
Yeah, you
anything
going down too.
happens to me, you're going down too. So
Yeah. Now,
you need to help me.
yeah.
And by help me, I mean go fight them while
Literally
I go
though.
hide.
Literally. No, but okay, so for if you're fighting for freedom for yourself, you kind of understand that. But what if it's for also your country? So I'm talking about Yona of the Dawn and Suwon. I know you like the story. Basically, for those of you who don't know, it's basically about a 16-year-old princess,
I love
red-haired
that
princess,
story.
and she loses her family and her throne to this guy that she really liked who kills her father. But he kind of does it for revenge because his father was murdered by her father, and that was basically kept a secret, but he knew. The thing was, the princess's father, he's a pacifist. And the thing was, he was failing his country. They were on the decline. And Suwon's father, who was murdered, he wanted to make the country better and stronger, like a superpower, you know? And I guess he was technically right. What he would have done probably would have been better for the country. And he kind of died over it. And Suwon takes the throne and kicks her out. So
He forced his way onto the throne and
yeah.
then tried to kill her in the
Yep.
process, but
I mean,
she
did he
ends
really
up
try to kill her? He was kind of
escaping.
like iffy. He was kind of iffy about that.
Her father
Yep.
was the ruler of their land.
Yep.
And now that he's gone, that right goes to her. So he had no choice but to take her out in order to basically rule.
I mean, the thing is,
I
he was
mean,
willing to throw away his friendships and all his relationships basically for the good of, his country. It's a hard one.
that is a hard one for me to answer because I can see him wanting to
Yeah,
throw everything away for the sake of his country. But I'm also kind of like he
I
could have
agree.
worked with her, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I feel like that would have been a better option for him than him being like, well, your father killed my father, which that is wrong. Yes, that is wrong. But he was fueled by partial revenge slash our country is not doing well. This man who has killed my
Mhm.
father, taken my family away from me, is now going to destroy this country that my
Mhm.
father worked so hard to protect. The only way for me to protect my
Yeah.
country and get my revenge is I got to take him out. I get the logic. What he should have done
Yes.
is marry her, and I'm not suggesting that anybody should do this, but marry her, poison the father, and then he rules over. But then we wouldn't have got that good show. I'm sorry, but Yona of the Dawn needs a
I'm pretty sure
season
they must be
2.
working on it.
Nope.
You know?
Do you know how long it's been
Uh-huh.
since Yona of the Dawn came out? I'm pretty sure I
Mm.
was in high school, I think, when that show came out. What year did that
It
show come out?
was
Hold on.
must have been a while back. Yeah, it's pretty old, I think.
Yona of the Dawn, the anime, came out, I want to say,
Kind of old.
2014.
Not that old, but
There's only season 1.
oh
So I was not in high school when this came out. But
no. Yeah, I don't know why he didn't just
yeah.
marry her, but he petty. He just petty,
He wanted
basically.
revenge. That was the thing. That's the only thing he could think of was revenge. Suon was messed up for that.
Yeah, it would have been good if they married, but I
I
think
need season 2.
honestly, at the end of the day, their ideals would have clashed because I feel like Yona has more of a similar to her dad. She has more pacifistic tendencies, and Suwon, although like, maybe
Mhm.
it's better for the kingdom, he would have. I mean, he went his dad's way more so, and I think the people around her, like Huck, would not have
Yeah.
agreed with the way he was ruling. For me, and personally, I feel like that was one of the major reasons he said, "Get rid of them all," because they're gonna be in my way.
Mhm.
It's good. I recommend, like, even though I'm not a
Ugh.
shoujo person, I recommend that one. But going on to villains like Durushu, Code Geass. So for those who don't know, it's basically about an
Yeah.
exiled prince, Durushu, and he gets this sort of supernatural power where he's able to control people's mind. And he ends up using this power to basically start a
Mhm.
rebellion against the current empire, Holy Britannia Empire. And he's kind of a villain. I mean,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
he basically is an
He's an
anti-hero, but in the end he's like
anti-hero.
honestly, he's kind of the most complicated protagonist in my opinion because he started out with really good intentions, but
Mhm.
after all the crap he has to do, it kind of went downhill. I mean, obviously, when you're in
Yeah.
war, I'm pretty sure your mental state is not going to be very good, especially if you are the leader of said war. But so everything goes
Right.
downhill. He's fighting his best friend on the other side. But in the end, this is a spoiler as well. In the end, basically, he kind of makes himself, he becomes that evil ruler. So his people hate him. The other side he was fighting hates him.
Mhm.
Everybody hates him, but he does this on purpose. And he became sort of like that common enemy that united the
Right.
world. And his best friend, in the end, they worked on this goal together, kills him in this final scene in
Mhm.
public.
He wants all
And
the hate to die with him.
it was one of the best endings when his friend pulls up in his uniform. So he's sort of the leader called Zero, and he's masked, right? Nobody ever knows who he is except for his really close people. He makes his friend dress up in that and publicly execute him. And it's like so sad because his sister touches him and she realizes he was never bad. And I'm just like, yo, that was probably one of the first animes where I cried. It's so good. Got me in the feels.
Yeah, no, I've watched the
It was really good.
end was really good. So when I watched it at the very
Hmm.
end, I was like, "Oh man, he got all these people that hate
I
him,
know.
only to have his best
Take him out.
friend take him out
Mhm.
so that all the hatred could die with him." Because then at that point, the enemies who hated him and then his own crew
Yep.
who hated him,
Yeah.
they had a common enemy. It was him. So now that he's gone, they can
Mhm.
now work together to have a peaceful life. I get that, but I don't care how
Yeah.
many people hate you or what your plan is. I'm not taking you out, okay? I'm not taking my best friend out. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I cannot do
technically,
it.
in the
I
end, didn't they have
cannot
that little
do
clip
it.
of
Now,
they weren't sure if he was alive or not? I mean, I think it was verified that he was after they made, like, another season, which I
yeah.
definitely don't count, alright? I don't count that. It
Mhm.
ended on that episode, and that was it. You wouldn't take me out for the world?
Look, I'm not taking you out.
Aw.
No.
What if I asked you to? What if this was my whole plan?
Sorry.
And I was like, "I'm gonna hire somebody else."
No.
But somebody
They
needs
just
to,
gonna
like,
hate us both.
continue my legacy to keep up the peace.
Find somebody else.
You're like,
You
"Not
better
me."
step down.
I don't know.
I'm not taking you out. Now, I understand his plan. He got everybody to hate him so that there's no more hate. I got that. But if you were Lelouch,
I'm down. I'm
they just
down.
gonna hate both.
We
Or I would dress up a dummy doll, have it face
Sounds
everything.
good. I'm glad.
I
Yeah.
get
I
it,
mean,
but
I
they
guess
could have
technically
staged
they
that
did, but
part.
yeah, no.
So
He was also supposed to die. So, there's one more actually villain, for those of you who know, Madoka Magica. Honestly, such an underrated show, so good. Basically, a bunch of middle school girls go into a contract to become magical girls and
my whole
fight these
shoujo.
witches. And there's something called an incubator, which is a cute little cat thing that has the power to make these girls magical girls. Kyubey. This is one of the hardest decisions because I understand where Kyubey is coming from, basically trying to save the world from this like heat death, and in order to prevent it, and he uses their death and their emotions to continually prevent this heat death. But the thing is, what I can't understand is he doesn't tell the little girls, so they don't find out basically until they did, which is the unfortunate part. But my thing is, if you had to become this person, right, Kyubey, like you have to make that hard choice. Well, I have two questions. Would you be able to do this, for one? And sec two, would you be able to tell those people that they're going to die saving the world? Okay.
No, I would not do that. And two, if I did decide to do that, yes, I would tell them because I want them to know what they're getting into. I feel like with a lot of magical girl, where you got a talking animal and then the females turn into magical girls and then they go fight monsters, the magical animals don't tell them what they setting up for.
Because I'm pretty sure if they did,
Like
none of these
they
girls will
don't tell
sign
them
up for
what they're signing up for.
if they know what they're giving up.
Exactly. In Sailor Moon, when Luna meets Usagi and she helps her, she basically tells her, like, you are the legendary Sailor Moon. You're going to fight monsters and all this other kind of stuff. She didn't tell her that she could risk her life. She was just
now
like,
go and do your
here's this
thing.
pretty brooch. Now I'm going to give you some tools to fight the monsters, but you'll be all right. Well, season 1 was like, and you're going to help us find the princess, aka that princess is you, but
I'm pretty sure these
but Luna didn't tell Usagi that she
do.
was going to potentially risk her life fighting these monsters. Now, mind you, it could be a given. So
they must have a
could be real
club. They probably have a
dangerous. Be
club where they're
careful.
like, oh, we don't tell the
Like
little
that was
girls nothing. We just let them do the thing.
Nah, girl. No,
Granted,
I can do that.
I don't know, to save the
What about
world.
you?
Oof. Just put other people on the line. That's hard. I might do it. I might, but I would tell them. I would definitely tell them like, hey, you're gonna risk your life here. Granted, I probably wouldn't get a lot of people to sign up, but
this is what you're signing up for.
don't sign me up
Nice
on false pretenses.
Don't just,
If I remember though, I think Kyubey doesn't have emotions.
Right.
And therefore doesn't really feel for these girls. So he don't care. But that's just how it is, I guess. When you got to save the world, you got to make some hard decisions.
There are so many villains that are not villains by choice.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that a lot of anime has a lot of different types of villains. They have villains who are just plain evil, aka Naraku, Frieza. I mean, the list goes on and on. But then they also have villains like Scar, Kagura,
Do you have
and
a favorite
Lelouch.
of all?
Kagura.
Okay, of all the ones you understand.
Kagura.
Okay.
I mean, just because I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
She didn't, it's not like she just woke up and chose violence. She really did not have a choice. And you can tell as each season of Inuyasha, she's really doing her best to if I had to choose to be evil at the end of the day, I'd want to be like Kagura and go about it in a way that, yeah, I'm going to do what you asked me to do. So I'm going to go fight Inuyasha and his crew. But while I'm doing that, let me go over here and holler at Sesshomaru real quick, see if he can help me. I would make a detour. Yeah, I'm on my way. I just made a wrong turn. Oh, look. Hey, Sesshomaru.
Let me hit you up, bro.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. That's true. I mean, if you have no choice. And for me, I don't think I would go out and seek revenge. But if I have to protect the people right now, then I would probably go to be evil. I think a lot of people would end up choosing the people they love. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, even if you had to be evil, I would take out the world. Just take out the threat. Yeah.
What if the world is the threat? But I would take out threat. Yeah.
Like, you got to be an Eren. The world is the threat. You got to take them all out.
It's a lose-lose situation. So you guys let us know, which villains do you feel like have the villain victim syndrome? Are they really villains because they have no choice? Or are they villains because they were victims at one point?
Would you protect the people you love? Like, is that an acceptable reason? Or is there no acceptable reason to go evil?
Right. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week on our Villains Part 2 episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Please be sure to follow us on our Instagram page at Anime Sekai Podcast.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with us. See you next week. Bye, guys.